Good afternoon. Hello to everyone. My name is Greer Gill, and I'm with the USDA Farm Service Agency Outreach Office. We welcome you today to talk about our new Marketing Assistance for Specialty Crops program. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping first. We do have everyone who is an external participant right now muted, so you will not be able to say anything on this call. However, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat function. We'll also be posting some things like our website and other tools there. And as we go along, just type any questions you have in there, and we'll be trying to answer those as we go along. And then we'll also do some Q&A at the end. With that, though, I will be passing this over to Regina Ware. She is our Deputy Director of Outreach for Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Greer. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining FSA call regarding our Marketing Assistance for Special Crops program, also known as MASC. We thank you for taking time out of your day to learn more about this program, and we ask, our hope is that you will share with producers and get the word out about the program. Without further ado, I will turn it over to the Deputy Administrator for Farm Programs, John Burge.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you all for joining us today. This is an important conversation to have with you as you work with your producers across the country and inform them about this program. I do want to take just a quick moment and recognize our team in the Deputy Administrator for Farm Programs deputy area, as well as the Safety Net Division, for all of their hard work in getting this across the finish line. This is an important piece of the agriculture industry across the country, and this program is designed to help with some of the unique challenges that specialty crop growers face in terms of their marketing and handling costs by comparison to other parts of the industry. This $2 billion that we announced about a week ago is intended to help offset some of those costs so their resources can be used to expand domestic markets and provide additional opportunities for growth in this important part of the industry. As you will learn, the deadline for applications in this program is January 8th, which is fast approaching, given the end of the year festivities that everybody intends to enjoy. So the more information and the more quickly that information can be gotten out to producers across the country, the better off we're all going to be. I appreciate the opportunity, Regina, to join you today. Sadly, I have to go visit the dentist, so I won't be on the entirety of the call, but I will stay on just as long as I can. And I will turn it over to my friend Kathy Sayers, our Safety Net Division Director, to give you the particulars. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John. So like John said, my name is Kathy Sayers. I am the Division Director for the Safety Net Division under the Deputy Administrator for Farm Programs. Within the Safety Net Division, we develop all of the programs, all disaster programs, all common programs like acreage reporting, payment limitation, payment eligibility, conservation compliance. We also do safety net programs like our ARC PLC program. So within our division, we do primarily all programs for FSA with the exception of conservation and price support. So MASC is housed within the Safety Net Division as well. Now, for the main part of the training, I'm going to turn it over to Devin Marsden, who has taken on the MASC program along with Janae Prescott. So you'll be hearing from Devin today and possibly Janae. But before we get started, John did go over the deadline of January the 8th. That is a very important deadline. I know that most of you, if you've ever worked with FSA before, we tend to have registers if you aren't able to be serviced on that last day, or we sometimes will do deadline extensions. because of the purpose of this program, which is to expand and extend markets for our specialty crop producers, and knowing the financial difficulties of our specialty crop producers, we want to be able to provide that assistance as soon as possible in the beginning of 2025. Because without that assistance early on, there's not going to be that much hope to expand those markets for 2025. That is the major factor behind these quick deadlines. And to do that, we have to announce this very quick sign up, 30-day sign up. January 8th is the deadline. Has to be at least postmarked by January 8th for it to be considered timely filed. And then from that, our county offices will, process the applications, get all of the data entered. There will be a very quick turnaround for payment factors to be determined, and then the first initial payment to be issued. So I guess with that message, the main thing that I want you to take away is this is not a program to wait until the last day. As soon as you have your information, please go ahead and contact your county office or print out the application from our MASC website. We have included a lot of tools on our MASC website, so you will have all of the information at your fingertips to be able to complete it at home if you feel comfortable with doing so, and then contact your county office. They can even help you file that electronically. While FSA is still developing the capabilities for producer-facing applications, we do have opportunities to at least allow you to submit those electronically, and then each county office will work with you to do so, or they may ask you to drop it by or in the mail or whatever, and whatever works best for you. We want to make sure that we reach you where your needs are. We want to make sure that you are serviced as soon as possible. So take a look at the MASC website. It has a wealth of information. It has the fact sheet. It has some tools on there. It has the instructions and the forms. We also tried to include in the instructions for the forms this time, tried to anticipate a lot of the questions. And so hopefully those instructions to the forms will help you more under this program than they have in the past. Now, with any new program, as you know, there's always going to be questions that come up that first week or so of things that maybe we didn't anticipate. So we are working through some of those. We will be posting some common questions and answers to our MASC website, and that'll be done within the next few days to a week. And those will just be common questions. When we post questions and answers to a public website, we do not get into specific details. So if it's a specific detailed question, make sure you reach out to your local county office, and they can help you with a specific detail of your farming operation. But our general Q&As, we will make sure that we get some of those posted. And so all of you know, our county offices have been trained. We released video training that was recorded a little over a week ago. They all took that training, but then we followed up with a call last Thursday and held all employee training nationwide. But if they were unable to attend, we recorded that also. They were able to listen to that. We also constantly update questions and answers for internal use. And so your county offices should have most everything that they need to be able to answer your questions. Again, of course, there are those hard ones that we're still working through. So just know that as soon as possible, we'll get all of those answers to them as well, because we also understand the timeline. We had a quick timeline to develop this program and to get it out the door as well. But we are making every attempt and effort possible to get you your answers that we know you need so you can complete a timely application. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Devin Marsden, who is our program manager, co-program manager for the MASC program. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being here today. As she said, as Kathy said, we're going to go over the particulars of the MASC program for you. We're going to talk about just a sign up information, some program eligibility information, the application overview and documentation for the application. The purpose of the program was designed to aid specialty crop producers with managing their higher marketing costs and also to expand markets or develop new markets for specialty crop growers, and also increase domestic consumption of specialty crops. As Kathy said, it is going to be a quick sign up application. The application period began on December 10th and ends on January 8th of 2025. The payment limitation for this program is $125,000 per person or legal entity. And we'll get into some eligibility information here. So first we'll talk about eligible crops. Only those crops listed here are on the screen are eligible. Those are fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, nursery crops, Christmas trees, floriculture, culinary medicinal herbs and spices, honey, hops, maple sap, tea, turf grass, and grass seed. And for examples of fruits or vegetables, you can go to the AMS website to give you some examples of those. We just wanted to give you some examples of ineligible crops. And here you can see a chart that gives examples of field and grain crops, forage, hay, and other cover crops, oilseed crops, other crops, some other intended uses, and some other ag products that are not eligible for the program. To be eligible for MASC, a producer must be in the business of producing a specialty crop at the time of application, and actually should be in the business of farming at the time of application, and be entitled to an ownership share and share in the risk of producing a specialty crop that'll be sold in 2025. And for a producer to be considered an active business operation, they would have assets and resources needed to grow, harvest, and market a specialty crop in calendar year 2025. A producer must be one of the following to be eligible: a U.S. citizen, resident alien, which for purposes of this program, it's defined in 7 CFR 1400.3. Partnership or organization, a partnership organized under state law, corporation, LLC, or other organizational structure organized under state law, Indian tribe or tribal organization as defined in 4B of the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act, or foreign person or foreign entity who meets all the requirements as described in 7 CFR Part 1400. Ineligible producers are federal, state, and local governments, including public schools, person or legal entities who do not have an ownership interest in an eligible specialty crop, person and legal entities that are not in the business of producing a specialty crop at the time of the application, or those that have ceased operation, such as a deceased producer or dissolved entity. Now to talk about eligible sales, and producers will select a year for the application, and it'll be based on their total specialty crop sales for the calendar year, and they can choose 2023 or 2024. For producers who didn't have any sales in either of those years, they can use 2025 expected sales, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Eligible sales for specialty crops must be grown in the United States, and any crops purchased for resale may only be included if there was a change in characteristics due to the time held. And for example, we have there a 2-inch plant that was sold as an 18-inch plant after 4 months. The producer must have received payment for that specialty crop during the applicable calendar year. And crop insurance indemnities and NAP payments for specialty crops for 2023 or 2024 may be included in total sales as long as those payments were received by January 8th, 2025. Eligible sales only include the raw specialty crop, sorry, let me start over. They only include commercially marketed raw specialty crops, and the portion of the sale derived from added value to the specialty crop, such as sorting, processing, or packaging, is not included in the eligible sales. And here's an example of that. We have a producer who owns a vineyard, grows grapes that are processed into wine. They're never actually sold as grapes, and then therefore he does not have a price he receives for just the grapes. In 2023, he used 500 tons of grapes to process into wine that he sold. And since the producer didn't have a price for the raw commodity, which in this case is grapes, he can select a reasonable price to convert his sales to the processed crop from the processed crop into the raw commodity sales. And in this instance, he chooses to use the NCT price. The NAP NCT price of $552.50 per ton was used to determine the portion of the sales attributed to the raw unprocessed grapes. And on this application, he would enter $276,250 for their 2023 sales. Here we have example 2, producer 2, who grows oranges where a quarter of the acre is intended for fresh and the remaining is intended to be processed into juice. The producer's raw commodity is considered to be both fresh and processed oranges. The processed oranges into juice is not considered value add. To determine the eligible sales, producer 2 can use their sales received for both fresh and juice sales and would not need to convert the price. Here we have example 3, a producer who grows strawberries and then processes them into multiple products. He also buys strawberries from other local producers to process into the value-added products. To determine the eligible specialty crop sales value for the strawberries, the producer can use the production that she used to process into the value-added product that was sold in 2024. And because the producer has an actual market price for the strawberries from which she's purchased, or he or she in this instance, they can use that price to calculate the total sales of the strawberries. And we'll look into this further on the next slide. Here's an example using some numbers. So we have some 2024 sales for the value-added products. So the jams and pie fillings, which is $1 million of sales of those value-added products. And then there's some fresh strawberry production that was used in the value-added products of 230,000 pounds of strawberries. And then the actual price, which was paid for the strawberries that were purchased, was $2 per pound. So to determine the specialty crop sales, you would use the quantity that was used times the actual price of the purchased strawberries, which would equal your total eligible sales. And in this instance, we would take the 230,000 pounds times the $2, and you'd equal $460,000. Here in example 4, we have a producer who grows wild blueberries as part of their normal post-harvest activities. They freeze the blueberries prior to sale. And freezing the blueberries does not add additional value to the crop. Therefore, the sales already reflect the price of the raw commodity. And here in this example, no adjustments are needed. Eligible producers who market their specialty crops through a subscription or membership service, such as a CSA, community supported agricultural model, they can include the portion of their membership or subscription fees they received in their specialty crop sales. New producers may use an estimate of their 2025 calendar year specialty crop sales in lieu of their 2023 or 2024 sales. To be considered a new producer, one of the following must apply. The producer must have began producing specialty crops in 2023 or 2024, but did not have sales due to the immaturity of the crop. They could have began producing the specialty crops in 24, but didn't have a complete year of sales, or is beginning to grow specialty crops in 2025. And we'll go through an example of each one of these here. We have Raphael, who began growing pineapples in 2024. However, the crop was not ready for harvest and sale until 2025. Therefore, Raphael could not sell any specialty crops in 24 and can use the 2025 expected sales. Here's an example for a producer who is producing specialty crops in 24 but didn't have a complete year of sales. We have Shredder LLC, who started farming near the end of 2024 and planted their first crop of cold season vegetables. They had experienced some sales. However, the LLC didn't have a full year of sales. And Shredder LLC has a purchase agreement for the crops that will be grown in 2025. Therefore, Shredder LLC can use their 2025 expected sales. Here's an example of a producer who will begin farming in 2025. We have Casey Jones purchased land in late 2024 that included a pecan grove. And Casey has never commercially produced pecans, nor did he have any 2024 pecan sales on the land that he purchased. If he meets the eligible producer requirements, then 2025 expected sales may be used. And MASC eligibility requires that the producer must be in the business of farming at the time of application and entitled to an ownership share and share in risk of producing the specialty crop that will be sold in calendar year 2025. Casey must provide documentation demonstrating the grove will be used and maintained as a commercial operation to be considered an eligible producer. Continuing with expected sales for new producers, they must have one of the following: a legally binding sales contract or purchase agreement for the specialty crop, or evidence that at the time of application, a specialty crop has been planted and is expected to be harvested and sold in 2025 calendar year. All new producers must provide acceptable documentation that shows they are in the business of farming at the time of application and intend to sell the specialty crop in the 2025 calendar year. The expected 2025 sales must be based on realistic projections that are supported by acceptable documentation, demonstrating the producer's ability to achieve the expected sales and their ability to grow, harvest, and market the expected yield or inventory. For new producers who have entered in a legally binding contract or purchase agreement for the sale of their specialty crop, their 2025 expected specialty crop sales must be based on the terms of their contract or agreement regarding the total sales amount or the price and amount of inventory or production. For new producers who are growing a specialty crop intended for sale in 2025 who do not have a contract, their expected 2025 specialty crop sales must be based on their specialty crop acreage or inventory that's planted at the time of application, and published yields and prices such as federal crop insurance data, FSA National Crop Table data, NASS or National Ag Statistics Service data, or other published data sources. Now to move on to the application. All producers wishing to receive a MASC payment must submit one application nationwide that includes their total sales for all specialty crops. A producer who is a member of an informal joint venture, each member of the informal joint venture will submit an application for their sale of the specialty crops. New producers will also complete a FSA 1141 along with providing supporting documentation. And those applications can be submitted in multiple ways, whether it's in person, by mail, or electronically, using either fax, email, or our systems called Box or OneSpan. According to the application, the producer is agreeing to all the following: to comply with and acknowledge the applicant is subject to all the provisions of the Notice of Funds Availability, or the NOFA. They're in the business of producing a specialty crop at the time of application. They are entitled to an ownership share and share in the risk of producing a specialty crop that will be sold in calendar year 2025. They agree that a MASC payment will only be made with respect to the sales for specialty crops grown in the United States by the producer, to provide USDA access to all documents and records necessary to verify the accuracy of the information provided. Continuing with the producer agreement, they agree that the application may be disapproved if the producer fails to provide a complete application or information requested by FSA within 15 days of that request, and to comply with payment limitation, adjusted gross income limitation, or other applicable rules by submitting any additional required forms. Here's the application, the part of the application, part C of the application, where the producer would select the sales year, enter the specialty crop sales amount, and then by signing it, acknowledging that providing false certification to FSA is cause for disapproval of the FSA 1140 or the application, and is punishable by imprisonment, fines, or other penalties. Here is a picture of the FSA 1141, which is the new producer expected sales worksheet. After the producers gathered all of their relevant information for their 2025 expected sales, this worksheet is completed. And along with this form, a new producer would submit the additional documentation, as I stated previously. The COC has authority to request documentation to support the total sales for both new and existing producers, or all producers using 2023 or 2024 sales. This list here provides examples of the documentation that COCs may request and is not all-inclusive, and some documents may not be used on their own, such as a Schedule F or a CPA or attorney statement or other similar documents. And here on the screen is a list of documents the COC could consider when questioning if the producer is an eligible producer. And again, this list is not all-inclusive. Here are the producer deadlines for the program. The application must be submitted by January 8th, like was stated previously, along with the new producer worksheet and any documentation to support that worksheet is also January 8th, 2025. We do have here that the eligibility forms that we'll talk about on the next slide can be submitted up to January 8th, 2026. However, it is important that those are actually received timely and so that we can process a payment for you. And the COC can request additional documentation, and that must be provided within 15 days. These are the applicable forms that I was talking about. So the FSA 1140, the 1141, the 902, or the farm operating plan, the 901, which is the member information for legal entities. If you're applying as an entity, the CCC 941, which is the average adjusted gross income certification. The CCC 942, which is your certification of income if your average AGI exceeds the 900,000, and you may want to provide the CCC 942. And then also the 80-1026, the highly erodible land and wetland conservation certification. Once the application has been received and reviewed, if it is approved, the payment will be processed and the payment transaction will be mailed to the applicant. If it is determined that any of the information certified on the FSA 1140 is not reasonable or is questionable, evidence may be requested from the participant. If the evidence provided by the participant is different from the information that was certified, the county committee has the option to make adjustments, and the county office staff will reach out on behalf of the county committee for that additional information. County committees can disapprove the application if any of the following occur, which is program eligibility requirements aren't met, the producer or legal entity is determined not to be an eligible producer, or if the supporting documentation provided by the participant is not accurate, or if the producer is determined to have intentionally misrepresented their FSA 1140 certifications. The county committee has the authority to disapprove the FSA 1140 if there's evidence the producer did not have an ownership interest in the crop or if signature requirements are not met. Going on to the payment overview. Producers are paid based on the 5 payment tiers associated to their sales, and the sales ranges have been determined here in the first column. However, the payment factors associated to each range will not be established until all applications have been received. Here's an example of that. We have a producer who reported $450,000 of total specialty crop sales. And the payment will be based off of the tiers associated with their sales. So in this case, it would be the sales associated in range A and range B and multiplied by their respective factors. And then the remaining $350,001 would be associated to C, which is the 100,000 to 499,000 sales range. As a recap of what we just talked about, the payments will be processed after the end of the application period, and they may be reduced by payment limitation, or payment factor may be applied if applications exceed the allowed funding. That is all my presentation for MASC. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Garriott to talk about food safety certification.
Good afternoon. I'm Jamie Garriott. I'm the program manager for the Food Safety Certification for Specialty Crops. We just wanted to give you a short little recap and reminder of this program. This is another program for specialty crop operations. Any specialty crop producer who obtained or renewed a food safety certification for 2024 between June 26th and December 31st is eligible for the program year of 2024. This program covers a portion of 2024 paid eligible expenses related to that food safety certification. And the deadline to apply for program year 2024 is January 31st of 2025. There are different categories that you can apply for. They do have maximum payment rates for each category. And with this, you do have to have that actual food safety certification. So if you do not have the actual certification yet, you're just in the process, you are not eligible until you receive that actual certification. The expenses that you have prior to getting that certification are eligible as long as that certification is received within the time period of June 26th through December 31st. Program year 2025 will start on January 1st. So then any certifications that are received January 1st through December 31st of 2025 will be eligible for 2025. More information on the food safety certification for specialty crops program can be found on farmers.gov. Devin, I believe that's all that I have.
Thank you, Jamie. And if you have any general questions on either of those programs, you can reach out to us either by going to the FSA outreach at USDA.gov. If you have any specific application questions, like Kathy said, head over to your USDA Service Center, or for MASC, you can visit the website there on the screen. Guess I'm handing it back to you, Greer, or Kathy.
So before that, it does look like we have the time for a few questions. So Devin, if you want to stay with me, I think Janae and Jennifer are also on. There's a lot of questions, so obviously we can't get to all of them, but know that we will continue to look at these, and any common theme questions, we'll try to make sure that they get added to our common questions asked. If we don't get to your specific question, make sure that you reach out to your county office, or if they can answer through the outreach email that Devin just went over. So let me see if I can pick some of the easy ones. Okay, here, Devin, I'm going to ask the question and you can answer. This one is from Jody Miles. I grow and sell fresh blueberries. They are packed in a clamshell. Do I use gross sales or deduct picking and packing?
Those, you would just use gross sales on those.
Right. Okay. There's another blueberry one about, in all of your examples, you did not subtract the package of any of the produce that was in, such as the frozen blueberries. Again, gross sales. Let me get to something else. Here's a general one. Are properties which are leased to grow specialty crops eligible? So it all goes to the producer. If the producer is an eligible producer that is defined in the NOFA, you have to be at risk in marketing that and growing, producing and marketing a specialty crop in 2025. So it depends on the producer that is leasing the land. You have to look at the eligibility criteria in the NOFA. The fact sheet would also help you with that, kind of gets it in a smaller section that you can read. There's a few on new producer. And let me just get to one of them, Devin, so you can, I'm going to try to get to the clearest one so you can answer that. There's a really good one. Let me just get back to it. do it now that I can't find it now. Here's an easy one while I'm looking for the other one. Based on the form that needs to be filled out on the website, how do we obtain the application number? If you'll notice on the instructions, that's a county office use block, so you don't have to have the application number. Okay, here it is. It's a long one, Devin. So as a beginning farmer, first time to farm, to launch spring 2025 flower farm, I have all the data and numbers for my crops that are expected in 2025. Does this program apply to floriculture? Number one, it's the first part of it. And provide examples. It's because I have a farm with no sales in 2024. So is floriculture eligible? Number one question. And then no sales. So explain how they can estimate for 25.
Well, I was yes. So to answer the first part of that, yes, floriculture is eligible. If the crop is planted at the time of application, then you can definitely include that on the application. But if it's not planted right now, but you have a contract, then you can use the expected sales for the floriculture crop for 2025. So I'm not really sure if that answers the question or not. Kathy, did I answer it?
I was reading another question. So what you said I apologize, on the last part.
Well, so the question was, how do I get there? But I was trying to determine eligibility first, because I don't know if the crop is actually planted in the ground or if there's a contract. If there's either one of those, then you would use your expected sales for 2025 based off of those.
Right. So there was kind of three parts to that question. Floriculture, she said, as Devin said, it's eligible. But then for a new producer, remember, as Devin went over the eligibility criteria, you either have to have a contract that you're going to use to sell that commodity in 2025, or if it's planted, doesn't necessarily be like in the ground, but it has to be planted, or contract. So you have to meet that eligibility criteria before you go to expected. If you can meet that eligibility criteria, then when you go to expected, you can use, there's several different resources we have. Our national crop table data, there's a link to get to what we call NAP NCT. You can look at crop insurance information. You can look at AMS information on pricing. Any published price you can utilize to estimate what your sales would be for 2025. And there's one clarification that we just talked about. Our NOFA specifically says, so yes, while you use gross sales, make sure that anything that's value added, you don't include that. So, and that, in accordance with our NOFA, states the portion of sales derived from adding value to a specialty crop, such as sorting, processing, or packaging, is not included in a producer's eligible sales. So those things, if it adds value, you would not include that. Okay, let's see. We've got a few more minutes. Get to another one. Here's one, and we're asked this question quite a bit. Is it better to report the highest sales or lower sales year of 2023 or 2024? So if you'll look in the NOFA and in the fact sheet, it gives you an example of how the tiers are. So there's the 5 tiers, and there's, like Devin went over, the factors are not going to be determined until the end of enrollment. So we can see what the universe of our enrollment is, how many sales dollars have been certified to, and then of course, we have a set amount of funding available. So in consideration of all of that, once we determine what the factors are for each tier and that final payment factor, let's say, and there's an example in both the NOFA and the fact sheet that that explains to you if you had like $400,000 worth of sales, you would have X number of dollars go in tier 1, X number of dollars in tier 2, and then X number in tier 3. And I think tier 3 is where for 400,000 or 450, it limits out. But just realize, you're going to get a factor of each of those. So if you had $1 million worth of sales, then you're going to get down to the other levels, the other tiers. So the more you have, of course, the more that you're going to get by factor. So I think if you look through those examples, it will explain that a lot clearer to answer your questions. Okay, here's another new producer, and you went over an example like this, Devin. So this one, you should be able to use that. We have been growing lavender since 2023, but do not have any sales yet. So it's immature, but they do expect sales in 2025. How do we calculate that and put it in?
Yeah, for 2025 sales, you would use your, you would determine what your, I'm going to say production, because I know lavender is a little bit different. Your actual raw production of lavender, you determine what your production would be, determine a value, a market price for that lavender, and then add it, use that to determine your total specialty crop sales. And the county office can help you with that one for sure.
And always remember, on new producer, you do have to meet the new producer eligibility criteria first before you do that. Okay, here's one. For sales reported, are these sales before the sales desk deduct their commission? So again, it's gross sales. You wouldn't have to do that deduction. Do you want to add anything there, Devin?
No, I just didn't know what desk sales were or whatever. So thank you for taking that one.
like a broker.
Okay.
Okay, it's 351. Let's do a couple of more.
There's an easy one that I didn't say on this call, is the AGI needed for 2024 or 2025. And in this instance, it's for 2025. So if you have one on file already for 2024, you're going to need a new one for 2025.
And there's several questions on here about, if it's a sole proprietor, LLC, nonprofit. I would say, and they're all very specific, I would say go back to the eligibility criteria for producer, look under eligible producer, and it lines out exactly who can be eligible. And I think it will answer all of your questions on those, because again, those are very, very specific. But in the NOPA and on the fact sheet, it does line out all of that. And if you still have a question after that, I would reach out to your local county office. Okay. A lot of them are the same. Okay, so here is a question. Does it state exactly what we can use the funds for? So there's not a criteria for that. If you meet the eligibility criteria for an eligible producer and eligible sales, then we're not going to dictate how you use that funding. The purpose of the program is to expand markets and create new markets for specialty crop growers, but how you use the funding, we will not, we don't dictate that. But that does bring up a really good point. One of the things, we never want to set a producer up for failure. So even though on existing producers, you don't have to furnish receipts and documentation up front, make sure you have all of that on hand, because we do for any self-certification program, we do a high percentage of spot checks. We're completing those right now for our emergency relief program and some pandemic programs that were self-certification programs. Make sure that any number that you certify to on the MASC form, that you have the receipts and the documentation to back up that number, because one day you may receive a letter requesting that information through our random spot check process, and you would need to have that. And failure to provide that information or that documentation would be, a disapproval, and you'd have to pay the money back. And we would much rather you not have to pay the money back, obviously, but just know that even though you don't have to provide it up front, make sure that you have it on file in your files. We'll do one more question because it's 3:54, and then we will. Okay, so there's some questions about eligibility forms. And if you'll notice in the NOFA and all of the information that has been put out on the program, you have the MASC deadline of January 8th, and then it gives you a deadline of 364 days later, of January 8th, 2026. Years are going pretty fast. 2026 is the eligibility form deadline. But I want to warn you that still could delay your payment. So the sooner that you can get all of those eligibility documents filed and updated, the sooner you'll be eligible for your payment and receive the payment. So that's sometimes it's not clear if you see that later deadline of what that might do to your payment. It could very well delay it. And another question that's related to that is if you filed those documents in a previous year. So for instance, under CFAP, are they still good for this program? And the question is, well, it depends. Like AGI, you're going to have to update it. So you would have to update it for the 2025 year. The 1026, which is conservation compliance, that one probably is still good. And then as long as your entity structure, you would need to check with your county office on the 902, which is that outlines your farming structure and entity structure. That's the 902. So some of it could be still good, and then others would have to have it updated for the 2025 year. Okay, so Greer, with that, I think that we could shut it down. All of the questions that were asked that we aren't able to get to, again, we will pull out the common questions. We will be posting a common Q&A document on our website, and anything else that you need, just contact your county office or the outreach email, and we will try to get you the information just as soon as possible. Thanks. We had a lot of participants today, and we really appreciate you jumping on, because the more information that we can get out to you guys, especially these stakeholder groups, if you could share that with your membership and get them the information that they need as quickly as possible to get into the county office and file their applications, the better off we're all going to be. So again, thank you. And Greer, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. One more reminder before we go, this recording will be posted on the FSA Marketing Assistance for Specialty Crops website. So that we're going to try to have that up by hopefully the end of the week. It does have to be transcribed, but we're going to try and get it up as quickly as possible for you all, so you have it as a resource. And as Kathy said, we'll also be posting some of the frequently asked questions there as well. And that link was put in the chat, so you can find that there. And you can also just Google FSA or the MASC program with a C. So thank you all for joining us. We hope you have a great day. Thanks.